Welcome, everybody. Okay, welcome to Reset and Restore, our Friday installment of Community Fit. I see some familiar faces. Some of you have joined all week long for Move Lab Foundations and Dynamic, and I hope more of you will join us along that ride. This class in particular is all about resetting and restoring our nervous systems, our bodies, our brain, our relationship to rest, so on and so forth. And this month in particular, we are working directly with the nervous system on how to regulate, how to become aware of nervous system, our personal nervous systems, and when they feel more regulated versus when they don't. AKA when I feel stressed and when I feel less stressed, both of which are totally normal and natural. As we've talked about in previous weeks, uh, this class kind of runs more like a course. So we're going to have a bunch of to-dos and we're going to have some talking because that's just the way this class has to run. There's no one right way to help reset and restore our body. There is only a bunch of options and choices, things that work for you, things that work for me, and they're different from each other. Last week, we started off with a little bit of getting to know how to spot some of our dysregulations versus regulations, some tools to help navigate tough times, and then kind of what to look for on the back end and how to make sense of all of that. We're going to revisit some of that and keep adding into our tool set. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The permission here is for you to sit, for you to lie, for you to stand, for you to walk around the room as you'd like. And if that's not working for you at some point throughout the class, change your mind and do something else. I'm joining you from a chair, and that's what I'm going to do. So let's go ahead and get started with just taking an inventory first of what does your body feel like right now? What do you notice? And then taking a notice of your thought body, your thinking process, your mindset. What thoughts are happening, either in the moment or what's your mental state for the last week, for the morning? So we got a sore and achy coming in. We're just, without judging it, we're just naming. And just because I see sore and achy coming in, like, how do I know I'm sore and achy? There's like a thought process, like the feeling I'm feeling is equal sign sore and achy. But what does sore and achy feel like in your body? Like, what does disembodied feel like? What does in pain feel like? What does I feel good in my shoulder, in my back? What does I don't know what I feel like, right? Because feeling neutral or not being able to notice is a feeling. And we're just kind of noticing these things and noticing the thoughts and then noticing the emotional body. What's the vibe of the moment? Are you excited to be here? Is it a little leery? Are you having an on week or an off week? And how does that feel? How do you notice that? Right? We see a worried coming in. And again, not judging any of it, just sort of noticing. And it becomes really important to take these litmus tests, these little dots on the map, so that as we explore and play with some tools, we notice what changes the sore and achy, what changes the stiffness, fatigue, what changes the worried, what changes the excited, overly excited, what changes these things for you, because it's going to be different from me than you. And at the end of the day, then we pull out some tools that we have to repeat, because it comes down to ownership of your practice, right? Like, you're not going to get much value out of this course/class if you only do these things for 10, 15 minutes on a random Friday and then never again. These things are tools, practices, invitations for you to try on, pick one or two to work on, work with, and then keep trying them again and again. So now that you have your ideas, You have your benchmarks, your starting point. Let's get into some of the practices. So we're going to kind of start with what we did last week so that those get a little more deeply ingrained, and then build, build, build. So let's get started. Let's start off with our physiological sigh. Why? Because it's my absolute favorite breathwork technique and one of the best breathwork techniques there are. As I've mentioned before, both Stanford and UCLA have labs that are dedicated to it, and sighing, which is what this breath mimics, is something we do naturally to reset and regulate every 3 to 5 minutes, whether you're awake or you're asleep. So a physiological sigh is a double inhale followed by a single exhale. Inhale, inhale, exhale. If you can go in through the nose, out through the mouth, all the better. And if you can do a bigger first inhale, short, sweet second inhale, exaggerated exhalation, great. I'm going to demo what this looks and sounds like one time, and then together we're going to do it 3 more times. So physiological sigh, inhale, inhale, exhale. And together 3 times. Two more. We got Bob joining down here. Bob will be with us later, right? He just came in from a walk. Inhale, inhale, exhale. Just kind of notice. Notice if anything's changed in any of the bodies, the physical body, the thought body, the emotional body. Did you like that one? And let's try on a different breathwork technique just to see how that one works for you. So you have a compare and contrast. Which one did I like more? We're going to do a 4-7-8 breath. This one comes from Dr. Andrew Weil. It's one of the most tested breathwork techniques are, especially on things like hypertension or heart stress. It's an inhale to a count of 4, holding our breath for a count of 7, and an exhale to a count of 8. 4, 7, 8. I'll do the counting, you do the breathing. We're going to start off like at a normal pace, and then we're going to exaggerate it a little bit. The thing to remember with 4-7-8, it doesn't matter how fast or slow you count, is that the cadence remains consistent through the 4, the 7, and the 8. This will be clear here in a moment. So take in an in breath like a normal human being, and an exhale like a normal human being. And then together, we're going to inhale to a count of 4, 3, 2, hold your breath. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, exhale. 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1, hold. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, exhale. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, slower. 4, 3, 2, 1, hold. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, exhale. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last round. 4, 3, 2, 1. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just notice what's changed, what's shifted. Doesn't have to be better, could have gotten worse. You're just noticing. And then, which one did I prefer? Option 1 or option 2? Physiological sigh or 4-7-8? Which one had the best benefit? Which one am I going to remember? Which one am I going to practice? Now, from there, let's go into our orientation practice. And we're going to do it from the lens that we did last week and then kind of play with it a little bit differently. So orientation, super, super simple. Start to look around your space. And you're going to start to objectively notice things in your space. Objective noticing versus subjective sounds a lot like this. There's a dog, there's a plant in a mirror, and a door, and a plant, and a window. And doors and windows are especially important. We'll talk about that in a moment. Versus subjective noticing, right? Like here's a pile of junk that needs to be organized and a plant that needs watering, things that only you would notice. Like what could everyone notice in the space? Now, we can do it visually or we can do it auditorially like we did last week, noticing what is a sound that is close, what is a sound that is far away. Sometimes eyes closed is helpful. You can do it kinesthetically. What do your clothes feel like on you? How do you physically know you're sitting in the chair, on the floor, or standing? How do you know you're having the physical experience? What are your feet touching? What are your legs touching? The back of you? What temperature is it in the room? How do you know? Is there a breeze? Is it chilly? Is it warm? Do you have a ray of light coming in on you? How do you know that? And tuning into the sensation, whether it's visual, auditory, kinesthetic. And that's orientation 101, right? Just noticing. I'm looking and I'm even looking behind me. Now, if that's working for you, stick with that. You might even want to take a pause and go, well, how does that change my experience? Did I feel more rested? Do I feel more settled? Am I more aware of my body? Am I more present? Sort of what we're looking for. How much more present can I be with what's going on? Now, you can keep doing that, or we can move. And we can start to orient. And maybe you notice something that is especially interesting today. Maybe it looks especially beautiful. Maybe it brings up a good memory. Maybe you like the way it feels. Some examples might include like what I'm looking at right now is a mirror that's reflecting the tree from outside. So I can kind of see in my room and outside at one time. That's especially interesting. I'm also sitting on kind of like this wool liner, sheepskin liner in my chair. And it's kind of squishy. Like if I just sit back a little bit and come forward and back, like it's a squishy, nice experience. Maybe it's the way your toes are rubbing against something. Maybe, I have my dog. I could look at my dog and go, like, I love my dog. I have a photo here of my family. Maybe I can look at that. Like just noticing things in your space. And then checking in. Am I more present? Are you more present? What does presence feel like? Then from there, let's go into touch. As we did last week, we'll bring hands together and maybe you want to touch the jaw or the throat or the chest, belly. And if it's not your hands, maybe you're like, oh, my hands feel rough, or I don't like the way they feel. Or for some people, maybe there's one hand or no hands. You can use another prop, right? Like you can lean up against something. You can use something warm. You can even use someone else's touch. And how does that help create some regulation, some presence? Maybe you don't like it, at which point this is not your practice. For some of us, this is exactly what we crave. That's why there's no right or wrong answer. It's just options and choices. Now from there, let's take that up a notch. We can interlace the fingers. We can lay the fingertips right onto the collarbones. This one's a butterfly tap. And my right hand, this hand, is going to start to just do a little tap. I can do it with one finger to all of the fingers. I can kind of flutter. I can do it hard. I can do it soft, fast, very slow. What is the right cadence? What's the right texture? Here's the thing about the tapping that I've discovered in my own body. You almost have to do it for a prolonged period of time, 30 seconds, a minute, before you really start to notice. And it's subtle. Now, you can keep doing that or other side. Or back and forth. Options, choices. Did you notice what I just did? No, let me rephrase that. Did you notice the information my body just gave? That deep sigh was organic and is a sure sign that my system is like regulating itself. There are a few indicators. If you can't spot yourself regulating, like, how do I know I'm improving? How do I know my body likes this? Sometimes it's hard to distinguish. Well, there are a few indicators. Your body will either change its breathing, it will either speed it up or slow it down, or more likely, most likely, do sort of a sigh, that physiological sigh, right? You may notice like a deep swallow, like a big gulping swallow. You may notice the sounds of digestion going on, or you may just feel yourself settle a little bit. So getting used to spotting those things, if you don't trust, how do I know I'm doing the right thing? Which one of these choices is the right one? Start to, like, your body's going to tell you. It's going to either do a big sigh, it's going to do a big gulping swallow. You're going to hear the sounds of digestion going on. So taking a little inventory so far, which of the breathwork techniques worked well for you, if either? Which of the orientation practices, orientation choice number one, we're focusing in on something that sparks interest and joy. Which of the touch? Was it something more like this, or was it more of a tap? Good. From there, let's go into some vocalizing. Now, vocalizing is super important for a lot of reasons. We don't often trust our own experience. We don't validate, what words am I looking for here? We often second guess the things we would want to voice because we don't want to offend. We don't know if they're right. We don't want to sound dumb. So vocalization noises will help with that. Also, from when we say we speak from our heart, which is a common like idiom, right? Like, oh, they speak from their heart. I'm speaking from my heart. That is actually physiologically correct. Your tongue is connected into some fascia, connective tissue, and some throat muscles, and goes all the way down into collarbone, underneath collarbone muscles, and connects via fascia into what's called the pericardium, or the fascia around your heart. It is all one system. So not only anecdotally, kind of in poetry, do we speak from our heart, physiologically, the movement of your tongue is connected into the health of the heart and vice versa. We speak from our heart. So vocalization helps to activate, reset, awaken those areas of the body. It just brings some nervous system attention, right? Like often when we're thinking like, oh, I'm doing something healthy, I'm doing something good, it's like a thought behind it. This is the embodied perspective of that. So what do we do about that? Well, we can first start with just sighing. This is a little bit different than physiological sigh, where we're really focusing on the breath of sigh. Just sighing is focusing on sort of the noise of a sigh. Which is often super hard for people to do. Oh my gosh, I'm just going to make a noise. Yep, that's the invitation. Just make a noise. Now it can be like that. It can be closed mouth. And getting used to allowing yourself to make those noises is super important. Not only are we doing that breath work physiological sigh thing, we're also kind of activating some vagus nerve, which is, we'll talk more about in the future, the soul nerve, the embodiment nerve. It's got a lot of roles and responsibilities, but for our conversation today, the health of what is called the vagus nerve, it's a cranial nerve that goes all the way through the body, is dependent upon sound, voice, breath, actuation, movement. That's how we know from a cellular embodied nervous system level, am I okay here? So, might be enough for you today. Or we can go into what's called the VU breath. And this comes from Dr. Peter Levine, Somatic Experiencing, one of my lines of somatic learning. And the VU breath, V-O-O-O-O-O, capital letter V as in Victor, O-O-O-O-O. It's like a deep belly sound. It's resonant. It's not going to be for everyone, right? Some people might feel like overly silly. Silly, you're going to come to understand in this class in particular, it's only silly to the ignorant, right? I only feel silly if I don't understand it. So what the VU breath does is sort of everything we're talking about. It helps to activate some of that throat, chest to throat movement, kind of settles the belly. And it helps to just sort of ground you. In somatic experience, we think of VU breath as a centering, finding my way home back into my body sound. V-O-O-O. Your inspiration might be foghorn. It might just be deep belly breath. V-O-O-O. I'm going to demonstrate it once, and together we're going to do it 3 times. I guarantee my dog is going to have a response to this because he always does. So I'm going to demonstrate what it is. I'm going to truncate it so it's not as exaggerated and as long. When we do it together 3 times, I'll go longer. You don't have to go any specific amount of time, but this is what VU breath looks and sounds like. VU. Then you might go longer, 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 longer. So you can hear the sound V, O-O-O-O-O. Okay, here we go. Together 3 times. Take your regular human being inhale. Exhale like a normal human. Take an inhale to prepare for VU. 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 Decide if that's enough or if you want to go 2 more rounds with me. Check in. I'm going to do 1 more. You're more than welcome. Do a little check-in. What do you notice? I always feel like after a VU, I need to go through orientation. So I'm going to follow my nervous system. I'm going to go into a little orientation. Do a little check-in. We have a I love the VU. Yep, me too. It's a personal client favorite in my practice. But again, it's not for everyone. Especially, I want to acknowledge that if I'm in a busy office, right, and I'm going to do maybe VU breath isn't the best choice if there are 50 strangers or even coworkers around me, right? Maybe the ROI of that isn't equaling out. Maybe then I want to just do some breath work. Maybe then I want to make a different choice. But if I'm home alone, if I'm in a quiet space, I just don't care. Like, I just really want to feel the benefits of the VU. Maybe then I choose VU. Now, let's move on from there. Movement is another way we quite literally dispel or discharge the chemicals of stress on top of a lot of other things, right? So let's move into that. Something really, really simple you can do. And I'm going to kind of sit up here. If you've taken Move Lab with me, you are very familiar with seaweed spine. That's like this exaggerated movement, right? Well, this isn't quite that, but it's not that. This is a lateral swaying action. It's a rocking right to left. While there is tremendous benefit in rocking forward and back, and in fact, one of my favorite somatic practices is to get on a playground swing set and swing for like an extended period of time. Like you got to do it for like 5 minutes at least. If you haven't done that in a while, give it a try. While there is benefit in that forward and backwards movement, right and left does something altogether different and special. So, lateral swaying is just this very slow rock, right and left. So, you can have your eyes closed, you can have your eyes open. And when you think you're going slow enough, what happens if you go a little slower? As I do this, I'm noticing like an inclination to do a yawn, which is a good, again, change of the breath. I have a deep swallow going on. I'm even going to go a little slower. Now, slow, fluid movement is really good for so many people's nervous systems. And for other people, it just makes you more anxious. Right? It just like I guarantee there's someone in this chat room right now that's like, nope, not for me. No, thank you, no, sir. So this is an option. Or I can pick my hands up towards my ears and I can shake. And I can shake up and I can shake down and I can shake my whole body, stomp my feet, shake, 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 shake. Ah. Which one did I like, if either? Did I prefer the slower or the more exaggerated? Which one worked better? We have a question. Sway your whole torso racking on hip bones? Yep, it can be any bit of that. I don't want to put a lot of rules on it. It's just whatever comes inclined. You can see this is not a huge rock. This is a pretty small contained rock. Both felt good, right? Different, different people need different things. And sometimes our nervous system welcomes all of it. Lateral swaying, I really like to do even standing up. This is a good proverbial grocery store reset. Like standing in line, just doing the slow rock. So that usually sets the tone, right? Of going, how I don't want to look like necessarily, again, some people don't care. I don't want to be that guy who's doing this like Rocky thing, right? In the middle of a grocery store. It can be so small that it's only really perceptible to me and no one's even going to notice. Now, if it wants to be bigger for you, great. But it can be that small, I think is my point here. It doesn't have to be these big exaggerated things. It's just noticing, does my body want to do this, allowing it, and then just taking that inventory. So just begin to cultivate that toolkit for yourself. What do I notice in my body? Which of these one or two tools out of the like 10 that we've covered today work really well for me? Which ones do I like and how do I know that they're working? And when am I going to practice these things? Maybe it's when I'm in the car. Maybe it's when I wake up in the morning. How do I know it's working? So take your inventory. What does the physical body feel like? The emotional, the thought body? Which way did we go today? Which ones had the biggest ROI? I noticed my stomach was tight during lateral sway, so I tried to relax it, felt better. Yep. I feel more at ease. Yep. And again, it's just noticing, right? Because that's really what the body is craving. What stress, distress, anxiety, trauma, overwhelm tend to do is either disembody us from the moment, like we just ignore what's going on. It's like we have a hi Cami. I'm smiling on the inside now. So what that tends to do is we either disembody and we sort of move away from our experience, or we become hyper vigilant. We become really, really, really cued in, unable to notice anything else other than these microscopic feels, right? Neither of which is healthy. We want to be able to notice big picture and leave our body when we want, come back in, notice details. We want the breadth of that. And I think that's the point. The tension in my shoulders is way less. Thank you. Okay, looks like we got some good feedback going on. We are all done for today. We have a couple more weeks of working explicitly with the nervous system, and then in May, we're going to move into physical tension, which also has a lot of nervous system components to it as well. And then in June, we're going right into rest and the many shades of rest. Rest isn't just about naps, it's about a lot of things. So thank you. We hope you join us for Move Lab, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.